All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Readers. Oh, I'm starting to record this a little later than I was expecting, a little busy today. But I want to quickly look at SoundHound, SoFi, and DXYZ. Okay, I see a good amount of red across the market. Clearly, we see two pretty big red candles to start the week on SoundHound, right? To me, all of this is just a reaction to the short week of trading that we have. All right. Whenever there's a holiday, whenever there's whatever it might be, long weekends bring extra sell-offs. All right. And look, it's an exaggeration. It has nothing to do with specifically these stocks, but so much can happen in a long. What if a CFO is caught stealing money? What if the CEO is caught with an underage kid, right? There was some article that Macy's employee, some single employee, right, which I doubt, there was a big like tie to that and whatever, but a single employee is getting blamed for $140 million of accounting errors. Like, get out of here, right? Like, there is so much that can happen. And if you're stuck with shares, your ability to react faster than the next person kind of goes out the window. Because what if we find out on Thursday during Thanksgiving and you can't sell, right? So long weekends bring sell-offs, and I think we're seeing that right here with SoundHound. As long as nothing crazy happens with the moving averages, and I'll talk about that shortly, I'm still looking forward to next week, a good full week of trading, right? Make me believe we haven't lost that line. One candle under is okay, right? Don't go lower. Hey, worst case, we got the 8 right there too. And again, I'll go over all these details shortly, right? But I'm willing to accept the red that we're seeing because again, long weekends tend to do that, all right? SoFi, I would say, is handling it a lot better. SoFi is still in full beast mode. This is, like, this is beautiful. This is what technical analysis really is, right? You're trying to break, you bounce, you break all 5 and fly. Oh my gosh, right? I feel like all of my catchphrases are in this view right here of SoFi. So I've been loving talking about SoFi, and really I feel like when I talk about this chart, there's not too many educated things I can say about SoFi, but I hope it really reinforces literally the exact same things I say about every single stock, right? I do believe TA brings everything to an equal, and that's what this looks like to me, and I hope to you as well, all right? And then DXYZ, look, I'm for sure going to talk about the daily and the weekly. You know that. That's why you're watching this. Today was an interesting day. And you can see it in the setup of the first couple hours. DXYZ tried to break all 5 on the hourly. The last one's down there. MACD was positive. RSI was close. Volume is the only thing that was missing, and volume is the oof, if this thing can just get a little volume, that's all it needs. Otherwise, hey, it feels like it's going to be hard to go below 30 at this point. But a fall from 40 something to 30, that's a quick 20%, right? So plan accordingly, get ready for it, and hey, if it happens, you can take big advantage of that or completely avoid, you know what I mean, right? So I'm excited to talk about all these 3. I'm a little later to recording than I was hoping for, but before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel, share this video online, comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms, but for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So, hey, if you watched the last video, SoundHound did significantly better than I expected, right? I was hoping to get around 830. We basically got that on this single nearly 20% day, and then actually went to almost 9 the day after. All right. So I think for me, and look, I might be a little too cavalier here. Maybe I should give it a little bit more respect, but I actually think I'm focusing more on the gap up. Oh, look at this thing, right? We closed Thursday down here at 825. We then open all the way up here at 880. All right. I think I'm focusing on the gap up to 880 more than the reality that we're down here at 760. And I do believe if this was not a short week, we would have not come down to here, but instead actually made a real, oh, and that was the peak of that, yeah, we would have come to that. No, we were already past that. Get out of here. Oh, I'm surprised we didn't go all the way to 10 cents. I think on a normal week it would have run. It really would have. You can see the thing that stopped me. We open at, look, sorry, let me slow. The close of this candle right here, the number on top is $8.91. All right. We basically open and just missed that, right? The high of this was 889. So we just missed the peak of that. I sincerely believe on a not short week that 891 would have been destroyed. It would have. Because the RSIs wasn't even that bad, right? Right here, it was a 95. Right here, it was a 72. Volume was going there. I imagine a lot of that volume came as it gapped up. And then, hey, if it held and continued, it would, all that's what ifs, right? It really is what ifs. But I think the reason I'm giving more what ifs than I normally do is I think the short week messed this up. I think as long as we hold some critical lines, and I'll go over that shortly, I still am bullish here. The one thing I've noticed, the Dow Jones, and I mean, you can easily see it right here. Dow Jones is actually doing better than NASDAQ. And I think when you look at SoFi, that's an easy reason why it might be doing better than SoundHound too. I think SoFi is a little less risky. And again, I'm not trying to compare apples and oranges, right? But Dow Jones is doing better than NASDAQ. So, I think that's a little bit to be had, right? But, excuse me. I think as long as we can hold 740, right? That's basically you open this. You can actually see it's 735, so maybe I can go just a little bit lower. I think as long as we hold 735, this is very, very bullish. I would even be willing to go as low as basically $7. That's just under the 8. I don't want to go under the 8, right? But I think I'm willing to say as low as 7 is still bullish. The one thing that hasn't happened is we haven't broken and confirmed that, right? We broke it, unfortunately couldn't confirm. I would expect us to hopefully hit the 8 and go up from there. But yeah, I think my expectation at this point is come down to 7, hopefully make a reattempt and rerun. And I think as early as next week, potentially, right? Like this is still a really good weekly. It really, really is. And hey, what's that right there? 730. As long as we can close above 730, you can even say 725 by the weekend. That's still a good weekly chart, right? We're setting up a bounce. We haven't quite confirmed as nicely as I'd hope, but realistically, we've been up here for quite some time. And yeah, this is a decent RSI. That is a nice MACD right there. Volume is picking up too, right? So yeah, I think overall, SoundHound is getting the butt end of a short week. It's something that just makes sense to me. It really does. So let me know if you think I'm being a little too cavalier on that focus on the gap up versus the 760 realities. I normally don't do that, and I normally don't do what ifs, but I'm kind of trying to balance the short week factor. Not too much on the news side that I've seen, and hey, I think I'm okay with that. We don't really need too much news as long as we're holding the 8 and the 20. The moving averages and the technical should be doing the job. You know what I mean? So I'm liking what I'm seeing here. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's take a look at SoFi. Oh man, SoFi has been beast mode. And I didn't mention it in the opening thoughts, but I think one thing that's really helping the SoFi uptrend is the Dow Jones. All right. SoFi tries to walk that line of, hey, we're a bank, but we're also more than a bank. I've personally been a little iffy on those thoughts. Again, I'm not here to give you fundamental thoughts. That's not my bread and butter. But I don't see the tech side of SoFi as much as I think other people want. And to me, SoFi is an institutional, bank, brick and mortar bank. And when the Dow Jones does well, banks do well. You know what I mean? And hey, I'm not saying that. I'm still saying that Nasdaq's looking good, right? QQQ is easier to type, but Nasdaq is holding a nice little uptrend. Nasdaq is trying to stay over all the moving averages. I would even say MACD and RSI don't look bad, even though there's a little weird red over green on that RSI right there, right? But I think it's able to take a little bit of the I'm a bank Dow Jones strength, and yeah, this is just beautiful right there. All right, so this is an interesting doji right here, and really, it's an interesting couple days. It's a lot softer of a reaction than we see on SoundHound, right? But I think it's overall kind of the same thoughts. Look, this is a short week. I generally assume that there's going to be a little bit of a sell-off on a short week. It just seems like SoFi's hasn't been that dramatic, and really, I think its ability to hold the 8 moving average so strongly really, really justifies that, right? So, looking at the weekly as well, where are we on the weekly? Man, it is strong to see. Look at this thing. Basically, since the 14th of October, you can say we've been living at an 80 RSI, right? I just kind of clicked arbitrarily at 78, and it's what looks like the average of all of that, right? So it is crazy that we're at an 83. It is crazy that this thing has pushed 88 and higher so many times. Look, I just randomly clicked right there. That one was an 88.15, and I think I clicked this one or that one. Look, this one right here, 88.38, right? So these peaks go well above 80 RSI, and hey, that's why this is just one of many indicators that we have here, right? I'm going to respect an RSI that's high. I have to, right? There's two sides to every coin. But when you're holding the moving averages, when you've got a real nice MACD holding that green over red, when volume is pretty much living at that 50 average line, when the NASDAQ, S&P, Dow Jones are pretty much doing all the good things you want to see, it becomes easier to ignore a bad indicator. It becomes easier to believe, you know what, I think we can live up here in the 80s as opposed to having to come back down to the 50s just to go back up to the 80s, right? Nah. We're just going to hold strong. You know what I mean? So, and really, that's starting to form on the weekly. I'm going to delete this line right now just to look at it on the weekly, right? But this isn't that old a stock, right? And we've seen it peak and drop, 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 peak and drop. All of a sudden, we're higher than we've ever been. Not only are we higher than we've ever been, I would, and I think I'm wrong as I'm saying it. That's kind of why I was hesitating. There were a couple horizontal moments. RSI was able to stay horizontal there, and it was able to stay horizontal there. And really, this window in 2023, I think, is a lot more impressive because it's actually holding a 70-ish RSI. So it knew how to hold a relatively high RSI, actually relatively early in its life, too. It's just incredible to see. And right, if you don't see it, let me just draw it really quickly. Like historical peaks well above them, right? So not only are we staying strong, we're just setting new expectations on the weekly, right? So we are long away from that 200 moving average. We have well golden crossed the 8. We're probably about to golden cross the 20 as well, right? So I see it being very, let's go to the daily just to validate that. Yeah, for sure. I see it being very difficult to get under 1480, excuse me, 1480. If we were to lose 1480, I think 1410 is probably the next place. You can also kind of see that's probably where the 20 moving average is going to get over the next couple of days as well, right? So it feels like there's a good base of 14, and really it feels like the daily and the weekly can live at these high RSIs and maybe just keep going, right? My next line's at 1660. We still haven't gotten to that. How good is that 1660 line? Give me a sec. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's not a bad line. Yeah, for now, that's still the real expectation. We'll see what happens when we hit that. That might be a place where it hits the resistance, sees the high RSI, and maybe, reacts from there. But, oh man, bouncing on the 8 moving average, breaking all and flying. Oh, there's so much good and so many technical things. And just look at the volume, right? Ever since it started to do the 200 moving average attack, that's some nice volume right there. It really, really is. Oh man, SoFi, I feel like I can make a 20-minute video on this thing right here. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's end it with DXYZ. And hey, DXYZ, this really, I think, is a story of volume. Okay, we were pushing 20 million shares not that long ago, and all of a sudden we've given up 90% of the volume as we're down to basically literally 2 million, right? So you've lost 90% volume, but you're holding the uptrend. Man, that's a crazy little reality for a rather interesting stock here. All right, so I obviously want to stress how good the 8 moving average bounce is, but since I covered SoFi, I at least want to say it's not as strong as this. And I think one of the things that makes this strong is just how consistent the line is here, as opposed to, what that's significantly steeper. It's not as there's just a lot more rocket with it, right? Maybe this last week and 3 days, give or take, is starting to look a little more like SoFi. That's about the slope, and it is living a little closer to the line, right? I think my one real issue with this stock, look how many dojis there are, right? In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days of trading, I see two real candles. Everything else, I would pretty much call it a doji. I think that is a doji and that is a doji. Those are maybe a little bit borderline, and someone would say, no, I'm wrong. But I think the one easy thing to say is in 8 days, there's really only two real candles. And man, there is a little bit of an added, concern when it comes to that. I want to see good, better, full candles. I think the problem simply is volume. Look, I'm happy that we're at least living at the white line, right? I for sure am. And hey, I think things would be significantly worse if we start to lose it. And hey, it's starting to, right? I'm not going to overreact on a single day. This is also a short week where I assume things are a little bit worse. So hey, hopefully next week is kind of back to normal. But look, we've at least been pretty much at or over that 50 line, right? That needs to improve drastically. We need to get back to this, let's call it 6 million. If we can get back to six, I don't even need the calculator, right? We want to be as close to 1 million share per hour. This thing got 2 million in a full day, right? So I'm asking to beat today's volume in a good 2 hours, right? So this needs volume to do it. Look, I don't think we're going to go below 3150. I think this is a real, and look, this isn't the best of lines as I'm looking at it. Is that an IPO line? Oh, it is a good line. Okay, good. Good. Wait. I was looking at that 43. This one. That's a good line. It is half of that thing. That's a good line. I don't think we're going to go below 3150. The 20 moving average looks like it'll probably golden cross it in the next couple days, just kind of keeping the same slope. Even if it starts to flatten out a little bit, maybe by the end of the week we'll get there. So I think this is going to hold pretty well. I would be, look, and let me at least just say, a drop from 43 to basically 33, a little bit lower than 33, that's more than a 20% drop, right? You're losing $10 at a place you only have 4 sets of $10 and a little bit of change, right? So that's a little bit of a dangerous thing. And hey, maybe it's worth setting a little bit of a panic around 93 bucks. Don't lose 93. All right. If you lose 93-ish, that's when we're going to start to maybe have some $31 concerns. Okay. If we lose that 31, that is where the real panic will come. That is a scary fall back into the teens, in all honesty. I don't know if that 25 would hold at that point, all right? But for now, that's significantly lower than where we're at. I don't want to just talk about anything lower, but hey, I'm at least showing both sides of the coin. I'm talking about the worst side right now of it, right? So, first real panic moment is probably going to be at 39. If we lose 39, I can see it being maybe a quick fall down to that 31-ish. That should hold though. That's my expectation. That should hold. What am I looking for at this point? Really, it's that. I want to break 46. Get me over this July, goodness, this November 19th candle. Get me into the 46. Look, the candle actually closes at 45.40 basically, right? 45.36. Maybe the answer could be 45.70, give or take, right? Different risk tolerances, risk rewards, right? But I think 46 is probably the money line. If you can break 46, my expectation is you'd get another 10%, basically another $4, taking you to 50. If this breaks 50, that's where things will get silly, all right? I think I'm going to draw the next line. It's not that hard a line to draw, but it is up there. If we break 50, I think basically 60 would be next, okay? One thing I want to talk about is the RSI, all right? So there's not a lot of history on this thing, right? And it seems like this is kind of the most comfortable place. I think I'm going to put it right here. There's a little bit of a hit right there. There's a good hit right there. There's a little bit of a hit right there. I would like to say I don't want the RSI to go below 56. Look, the RSI was as high as 94. Okay, so going from a 94 down to a 56, I would still call that a healthy cool down for sure. I think if we start to slip below 56, I think that might be what takes us from 37 to 31. All right. So I would watch that 39, 37 range on the dollar. I would watch a 56 RSI on an indicator stance. And again, what I think matters more than any of the stuff I just said, volume. We need to get back to about 6 or 7 million shares per day. Oh man, if it could do more than that, obviously things would go wild, and we'll see, and we'll react, and the lines, hopefully the resistances are good. But 7 million shares in a 7 hour day, you're basically looking for 1 million shares per hour. All right. I'll look at the weekly. I don't think I looked at the weekly. Again, there is no 50 moving average, right? This thing has not been alive for 50 weeks. So we're nicely over the 8 and the 20. I wouldn't quite call this crazy confirmation. And hey, with that said, if we were to fall back down to the 8, that's basically the 25 line that I was kind of talking about a little bit on the daily, right? So be careful. All right, be careful. I think 31 should hold. I hope we don't have to worry about 25, but I think you can tell. I think 31 is a little bit more realistic than 59. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I'll be watching that 36, 46 number, right? But yeah, I think this thing is just, look, even the weekly, right? Weekly as high as 81. Come back down a little bit to 50, and then you can take right back off to and again, look at the volumes, right? We went from 40 million shares a week. We're basically down 90%, right? So volume is the only thing missing here. It really, really is. All right. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so, so much.